The ability to respect ourselves and others through silent disengagement fosters healthier, more balanced relationships. When we set clear boundaries and choose not to engage in harmful dynamics, we show both ourselves and the other person that we value our emotional health. Over time, this practice can help establish patterns of mutual respect, where both individuals are aware of and sensitive to each other's boundaries. It's a form of communication that doesn't require words. Yet it speaks volumes about the value we place on emotional well-being and the importance of maintaining dignity in our interactions with others. This approach encourages personal growth, emotional intelligence, and a deeper understanding of how we navigate relationships in a way that respects both ourselves and those around us. Good morning, everyone. Today I want to talk to you about a powerful yet simple concept that many of us struggle with: the power of not reacting. It's easy to get caught in the whirlwind of emotions when someone says something hurtful or challenging. We may feel compelled to respond, prove a point, or to defend ourselves. However, I want to encourage you to think differently. Instead of reacting, let's focus on cutting off the negativity silently but purposefully. In every challenging situation, we are presented with the opportunity to react. Whether it's a snide remark from a colleague, a disagreement with a friend, or an unexpected critique, our immediate instinct might be to respond right away. However, this urge to react can often lead us down a path of emotional turmoil and unproductive outcomes. Instead of reacting impulsively, we can choose to pause and gain control over our emotions. This is the essence of emotional control, recognizing the space between what happens to us and how we choose to respond. Emotional control doesn't mean repressing or denying our feelings. It's not about pretending that a hurtful comment doesn't bother us or that we're unaffected by negative experiences. Rather, it's about acknowledging the emotion, understanding its source, and then making a conscious decision about how to engage with that emotion. The ability to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively is a skill that we can develop over time with practice and patience. When we find ourselves triggered by a situation, it is essential to recognize that our initial reaction is often governed by the subconscious. It's the primitive fight or flight response, an instinctual reaction that evolved to help us protect ourselves. In modern life, however, this automatic reaction is not always the most effective response, particularly in situations where we feel emotionally wounded but aren't physically threatened. The challenge, then, is to break the automatic cycle of emotional reaction and instead introduce a more deliberate response. This doesn't mean that we suppress our emotions. On the contrary, we should allow ourselves to feel them. But by taking a step back and acknowledging the emotion without immediately acting on it, we allow ourselves the space to process our feelings. This is where the concept of emotional control becomes truly powerful. When we pause and reflect, we can consider the potential consequences of reacting. Would responding in the heat of the moment escalate the situation? Would it cause us to say something we might regret later? Would it lead to a breakdown in communication rather than resolution? In the moment, it can be challenging to step back and resist the urge to react. However, with time, we can train ourselves to recognize the signs of emotional escalation and take a brief moment to breathe, collect our thoughts, and then choose how to respond. This could be as simple as pausing for a few seconds before speaking, taking a deep breath to calm our mind, or even walking away from the situation temporarily to regain clarity. Additionally, emotional control isn't about repressing negative emotions or pretending that everything is fine when it isn't. It's about creating the space to process those emotions in a healthy way. For example, if we feel anger rising within us, we can acknowledge that anger without letting it control our actions. We might choose to express our feelings later in a more constructive way, when we have had time to cool down. Emotional control allows us to engage with our emotions in a manner that doesn't result in impulsive or regrettable behavior. Furthermore, the ability to control our emotional reactions can improve our relationships and interactions with others. When we react impulsively, we risk escalating conflicts and potentially damaging connections. However, by responding thoughtfully, we open the door to healthier, more productive conversations. Our ability to control our emotional responses enables us to communicate more effectively, allowing us to stay composed and focused even in the most challenging circumstances. In essence, emotional control is the foundation of mature decision-making. It empowers us to take charge of our emotional well-being and act in ways that align with our values and goals. By practicing emotional control, we not only safeguard our mental health, but also enhance our capacity to navigate the complexities of life with grace and wisdom. The more we practice this skill, the easier it becomes to remain centered, no matter what life throws our way. Setting boundaries is a critical aspect of self-care, and it plays a central role in preserving both our emotional well-being and our relationships. However, when we think of boundaries, we often associate them with dramatic confrontations, heated arguments, or explicit declarations of limits. But boundaries don't always have to be loud or confrontational. In fact, one of the most powerful ways to set a boundary is through silence, cutting off an interaction without the need for confrontation. This subtle, silent act of disengaging can be a highly effective and graceful way of maintaining control over our emotional state while still respecting others. To understand this better, imagine a situation where someone says something that upsets you or challenges your values. The natural impulse might be to respond quickly, to defend yourself, or to prove your point. However, engaging in such a way can lead to further escalation, misunderstanding, or even resentment. In such a moment, the ability to silently disengage becomes a vital tool. By choosing not to react verbally or emotionally, you are silently enforcing a boundary. You are telling the other person, I choose not to participate in this interaction any longer, but doing so without needing to raise your voice or cause a scene. Setting boundaries silently is not about ignoring the issue at hand, nor is it about avoiding confrontation altogether. It's about understanding when a situation is no longer productive or healthy for you. By disengaging, you are protecting your own emotional space and ensuring that you don't invest energy into an interaction that could potentially harm you. The key is to recognize when to step away from something or someone without feeling the need to explain, defend, or justify yourself. This is not an act of avoidance, but one of self-preservation. Moreover, silently cutting someone off does not have to be a cold or dismissive act. It can be done with grace and respect. In fact, this is often the most respectful approach, as it shows that you are choosing not to engage in negativity or conflict. In many cases, by not responding or reacting immediately, you give the other person the space to reflect on their behavior. They may realize that their words or actions have impacted you without you ever needing to vocalize that hurt. Sometimes the lack of a reaction speaks louder than words, signaling that you are not willing to entertain or tolerate behavior that undermines your values. This silent boundary setting also has the added benefit of preventing unnecessary conflict. When we engage in heated exchanges, emotions can cloud our judgment, leading to things being said that we don't mean, or actions being taken that we regret. By cutting off the interaction silently, you are preserving not only your peace, but also the dignity of the other person. Rather than fueling a confrontation, you choose to preserve the relationship in a way that doesn't damage either party. This is especially crucial in professional settings or personal relationships where ongoing communication is important, but the issue at hand is not worth creating further discord over. Furthermore, the silent setting of boundaries can be empowering. It puts you in control of your reactions, allowing you to take charge of your emotional well-being. Instead of being a passive participant in interactions, you become the active agent in deciding how you will engage with the world around you. It removes the pressure to engage in every conversation or argument, helping you conserve your energy for things that matter most. In this way, the silent setting of boundaries enables you to maintain your sense of agency in situations where you might otherwise feel powerless. In the long run, this practice of silently cutting people off not only helps you protect your own mental and emotional space, but also teaches others how to interact with you. People will begin to understand that certain behaviors are not tolerated and that your time and energy are valuable. This approach fosters an environment of mutual respect, where boundaries are clearly understood without the need for confrontation. It's an elegant, mature way to handle difficult interactions, leaving everyone involved with more dignity and peace. When we choose to cut off a negative interaction silently, we are not only protecting our own well-being, but we are also respecting the space and emotional needs of others. This act, often seen as a form of disengagement, is not about dismissing people or their feelings, but rather about setting a boundary that allows both parties to avoid unnecessary conflict. By stepping away from a situation without confrontation, we honor our own need for peace and self-respect, while also acknowledging that others may have their own reasons for their behavior. Respecting ourselves means knowing when to protect our emotional space. In the heat of a moment, it can be easy to get caught up in defending ourselves, to argue a point, or to respond to every comment made. However, this constant back and forth can drain us, especially when we are engaging with people who are not open to listening or compromising. In these situations, choosing silence as a response is not only a form of self-care, but it is also a demonstration of self-respect. You are essentially saying that your mental peace and emotional balance are too important to be disrupted by unnecessary conflicts. This choice to disengage does not have to be seen as cold or dismissive. Instead, it can be an expression of maturity. By cutting someone off silently, you are allowing the conversation to end without escalating it into something that could be harmful. When we respond immediately, especially out of anger or frustration, we risk saying things we might regret, or we might allow the situation to spiral out of control. On the other hand, disengaging gracefully helps to avoid this outcome. It allows the interaction to end naturally, preserving both your peace and the dignity of the person you are interacting with. This way, no one is left with feelings of humiliation, anger, or regret. Additionally, by choosing silence over confrontation, we communicate to others that certain behaviors are not acceptable. Often, people act out of frustration, miscommunication, or even insecurity, and they may not even be aware that their actions are harmful. By choosing not to engage with them in the moment, we give them the opportunity to reflect on their behavior without further fueling their defensiveness. This can create a space for growth and self-awareness, both for the person who initiated the negative behavior and for ourselves. Silence becomes a tool for creating a boundary that subtly signals to others that you are not willing to engage in harmful or disrespectful interactions. It invites them to reconsider their actions without a direct confrontation, allowing for a more constructive approach to resolving the tension. Respecting others by disengaging also means recognizing when it is not our responsibility to fix or change them. Many times we find ourselves in situations where we want to respond because we feel the need to make others see our point of view, or we want to correct their behavior. However, the reality is that we cannot control others. They have their own thoughts, beliefs, and feelings, and they may not be ready to hear what we have to say. In these instances, choosing to step back and silently cut off the interaction allows them the space they need to process their own emotions or thoughts. It prevents us from feeling the burden of trying to control the situation or fix things that are beyond our control. The ability to respect ourselves and others through silent disengagement fosters healthier, more balanced relationships. When we set clear boundaries and choose not to engage in harmful dynamics, we show both ourselves and the other person that we value our emotional health. Over time, this practice can help establish patterns of mutual respect, where both individuals are aware of and sensitive to each other's boundaries. It's a form of communication that doesn't require words, yet it speaks volumes about the value we place on emotional well-being and the importance of maintaining dignity in our interactions with others. This approach encourages personal growth, emotional intelligence, and a deeper understanding of how we navigate relationships in a way that respects both ourselves and those around us.